Okay, today we're going to be talking about ways to remember drug modes of action, ways to remember drug modes of action, and we are going to be talking about the different ways that drugs can target microbes on a cellular level, be it through the cell wall, plasma membrane, DNA synthesis, RNA synthesis, ribosome, or metabolic pathways. Okay, first we're going to deal with ribosomes. When you think of ribosomes, think ribs. How many ribs do you have? Let's find out and let's plan a party. So you can either have 30 ribs or 50 ribs at your party. So let's work on planning a party. If you have 30 ribs, you have 30 slabs of ribs, you can have maybe a small to medium party. What are you going to need? You're going to need amigos on a terrace and possibly tricycles. Okay, so amigos is aminoglycosides, the terrace is the tetracyclines, and one of your friends, one of your amigos has a daughter named Tetra, and she needs a tricycle. So if you can see here at the image, kind of get that in your brain. You have a small party, 30 ribs. You're going to have some amigos. So you have your two amigos there. They have a daughter whose name is Petra, and she is riding a cycle. So if you have 30 ribs, 30 slabs of ribs, small to medium party, you're going to need amigos on a tetracycle, right? Tetracycline aminoglycosides, all right? Those are going to be your ribosomes 30S subunit. And I'm going to come back to this slide and give you some tips as well. Well, actually, I'll just share it now about tetracycline. So tetracyclines basically inhibit protein by blocking the association of tRNAs, sorry, with ribosomes during translation. So, for example, picture your amigo um, who has his daughter, tetracycline or whatnot, and they have a TO. Okay, you always got the Theo. Okay, so you got your Theo, and your Theo is like making sure that nothing happens between two people at this party, and they are trying to associate with each other. The tRNA and the ribosome, they're trying to hang out. And the Theo is like stepping in, being like, oh, no, we are not going to be translating any messages from the tRNA to the ribosome. None of that. We're just going to be stepping in. It's a um, very broad spectrum. And some of the side effects are bleh, phototoxicity, discoloration of the teeth, and liver toxicity. And so if you think of someone whose Theo is about to boom knock somebody's teeth out for talking to their niece, you could think of that too. And the liver, if they just got beat up, yeah, their liver is probably damaged. So doxycycline is actually the most prescribed version of tetracycline. So just something to think about there and a little tip that helps me using the same visual, of course. On to this next one, we're going to be talking about the 50 ribs party package. So if you really want a party, you're going to need a couple things. What are you going to need? You're going to need DJ macro slide. You're going to need a DJ, a Lincoln, a pool, and you're gonna be outdoors because this is a big party because you got 50 ribs available, right? So with this case, you have DJ macro slide for the macro slides, Lincoln limo, and while you're in your limo, you can have Sammys. So that's Linkle Samides, right? Linkle Samides, right? And then your pool, think chlorine, right? Chlorine's in the pool. There's a P in there. So that's how you can think peak pool. Outdoors, think oxygen. Outdoors is fresh. You're going to get some fresh air. So for your 50S subunit, it's your macroslides, lincosamides, chlorophenol, oxylidinones. Okay, so I just kind of go off of the way they look because a lot of these are very hard to pronounce for me personally. And so with these 50 rib package, I want to drop some extra tips on the micro slides. So the micro microlides, sorry, are broad spectrum and they inhibit the bond between specific amino acids. For example, azithromycin and erythromycin is a semi-synthetic version of that, and it's black label, meaning it's super toxic. Uh, but these are ways that protein synthesis is inhibited. You know? So I thought this slide was super, super cute. Plasma membrane, another piece. So it's time to potty time. So I'm a mom, I think of potty time, right? So these all have P's in the plasma membrane on the section. If you can see right there on the left, they all have P's excluding. You need to exclude from this list because when you are taking your quiz, you might have other things that have P's in it, but penicillin, penicillin glycopeptides, and penems are excluded. The reason why is because we don't want to reward our sugar. Think glycose, glucose, sugar, right? And they're not sick, so we don't need penicillin, and you don't want them on your honeymoon at the Caribbean, right? So remember, diapers cost more later. Pink airplane. Because I think later, I think airplane, I'm going somewhere. Why not make it pink for the P, right? So, anyways, diapers, daptomycin, cost. Colostin. That sounds like cost to me. More, think of poly. So there's two polys, more than one. Polymyxin and polymyxin B. Later is lipopeptide. So plasma membranes, things that affect that plasma membrane. It's potty time. Diapers cost more later. So you can think of a visual image of a diaper costing you more later on an airplane. This one I really liked. I thought it was really cool because it's very super simple. RNA synthesis. I know it says DNA on there, but ignore that part. RNA synthesis. They basically both start with an R and both have a RIFA. So you think RIFA, think Rasta, RIFA, Rasta, think Rastafarian. Think of a Rastafarian scared of a roaring lion. RNA, RNA. Okay. So where I'm going with this is actually to share another tip on this. Rifafan Re, Rifampin, Rifampin, RIFAMPIN basically blocks RNA activity, RNA polymers activity in the bacteria. So think of so basically like think of it like trying to copy the DNA and turn that or translate it, right, into RNA. And during that process of transcription, it's like, no, you can't change the file type and rip us off our Rastafarian music. Okay. So you can't change the file type from like an MP3 to Apple Music. You can't translate that file type from DNA into RNA with this. Okay, because they don't want to get ripped off, okay, with their Rastafarian music while they're running away from a roaring lion. All right, so hopefully that helps you remember that. This slide is super cool. It is super busy. But you know why it's super busy? It's because this one talks about metabolic pathways. So metabolic pathways, what I want you to think of here is metabolic pathways loves metaphors. So metabolic pathway, um, actually the metabolic race car came up with this one sentence method story. It goes like this. It's very short. Fast. Try me. Okay, so now we're gonna break down his story. So basically, he's in a race car. So picture yourself, actually picture you in a race car. So you are the metabolic race car, and you're in a race car, and all of a sudden you're driving on the race car track, and then somebody goes, "What's your name?" And that's sulfonamides, and they're like sulfonamides, sulfonamides. Get it? What's your name? Sulfonamides, and you're like, ah! So you swerve, and then you hit another one. phones. And then when they find out that you avoided them, cell phones uses their cell phone, okay, to call for backup. And you're like, fast, folic acid, fast. And then you're like, all of a sudden, you see another snake, and you're like, don't try me. Try methylpin M, mycolic acid. Don't try me. And then you're like, ah, and then all of a sudden you see another snake and you're like, eek! And it's a giant snake that's cell phones called on his cell phone for backup when you avoided sulfonamide. And it's ick! It's a isanoid snake. Okay, so that was it. So fast sulfonamides, sulfones, tri is trimethoprim, me is mycolic acid, and ick is isanoid. So I really thought that one was pretty fun. And another thing about the sulfonamides is that their name is very old. They are the OG. They are the original, the oldest synthetic material, okay? They can treat gram positive, gram negative, they're very wide spectrum, and they we don't want to like target all of the folic acid. So they have selective toxicity for bacteria and they're usually used to treat leprosy. But in the same way, bacteria do need certain enzymes to survive, and thus trimethoprim, trimethoprim, okay, affects folic acid synthesis. And so basically alone, if you give that one or sulfamethide alone, both of these can basically make it so it cannot it basically inhibits growth, so it can't keep growing. But if you do it together, it's a synergy, and these two are used together, and it basically decreases the level of that folic acid so much they basically die. They're just like, ah, we can't survive, kind of like. So that's that one. This one's super fun too. I picture a mixing bowl and I picture all these different DNA color strands. Okay. So for DNA synthesis is don't forget color levels mix. So when you think of DNA synthesis, don't forget color levels mix. Why? Because the colors of DNA strand in many photos are just these random mixed colors. And I used to think they meant something, but all the colors are different and like all these different pictures, it doesn't even matter. Okay. So don't forget color levels mix, and I like to go to the chiropractor. Okay, this is why that's important. So don't is DNA synthesis. Forget is fluoroquinoles. Color is kyprofloxacin. Levels is level Floxin and Levo. I think that sounds similar. Mix is moxifloxacin, which I feel like mix mox. It sounds like I don't know, cocktail or something. But and I like to go to the chiropractor. The reason why this is important is so you know that you have that chiro in the beginning because there's like two other ones on the list that start with a C, so I don't want you to get like confused of that chlorophenol, which is that 50S ribosome one, which actually Clorox, swimming pool, that was at the rib party, or the colostin, which is the plasma, colostin, cost diapers, right? So we don't want to get mixed up with those. So always remember that don't forget the color levels mix and random, but I like to go to the chiropractor. Okay. And something about that, the chiropractor is the chiropractor treats anything. Have you ever went to a chiropractor or have you ever talked to somebody who's super crunchy and they're like, "Oh, do you have gas? Go to the chiropractor. Do you have a UTI? Go to the chiropractor. You have you're coughing? Yeah, my chiropractor can treat that. Like you should see your chiropractor." So pretty much the same way they treat a broad range of gram positive, gram negative. One of the ones Miss Cairo is hyprofloxacin and levofloxacin. So the Pro can treat anything. Some of the symptoms though, because as if you go with a chiropractor, a lot of people are going to get some placebo effects, but they're still going to be sick, right? So phototoxicity, neurotoxicity, think they're crazy. Um, Cardiovascular, they're just gonna have those heart issues, the the metabolic might be screwed up, and they might risk rupture because as you see, he's laying on that, that piece, and if he chiropractor pushes too hard on something, hey, you can rupture your tendon. Okay? So, that's just something to remember for that. This one is super cool too. I put a background of a brick wall on there. Why? Is because this cell wall, like it could block the steps in the biosynthesis of peptidoglycan and make cells basically like block the biosynthesis of the building of the bacterial wall, basically. Like, hey, we're hijacking this building, like y'all are not building anything else. And if obviously their cell wall is not good, then yeah, they're dead. Okay, so bet penicillin carries mom's carbs and sugar van back. So when you think of the cell wall or what targets the cell wall, bet penicillin carries mom's carbon and sugar band back. So penicillin, I put a little mushroom on the penicillin because if you look at one of them, uh, like cephalosporin is still under the B lactams, and when I think of spore, I think of mushrooms. So that's right under penicillin. So here's a super penicillin. He's like, yay, saving the day, and mom's hugging him, and they have a minivan, and mom turned this minivan into her sugar van, and she's selling bread and all the carbs and all the sweets out of her sugar van, and he's on the road bringing that back to mom, and mom is so happy. So, and I bet on that. I bet money on that. I was like, I bet penicillin is going to get the job done. And I bet penicillin carries mom's carbs and sugar van back. So bet is the lactin, right? Penicillin carries cephalosporins, mom's monobactams. I think of mom's got my back, monobactams, carbs, carb penems. It sounds like it to me. Sugar, I think of glycopeptides. Glyco, think glucose. Sugar, van. It literally has the word van. So vanomycin. Back, again, has the word back. Bacterian. So this is super easy to remember. Super easy. So when you think, if there's a question like, what part, does bacterian target? And you're like, bacterian? Back. Bet penicillin carries mom's carbs and sugar van back. Bacterian targets the cell wall. Boom. Got it? And that is all that I have to share. So I hope you guys enjoy this. I hope you guys are able to use this content. This is just something that I'm uploading for myself. So if it can help somebody else, amen. If you like it, like and